Welcome back, America. We're here with Dr. Thomas Sowell. The book is Social Justice Fallacies. I want to encourage you to go to Amazon.com and grab a copy. Any major bookstore should have a copy. And it is very readable, and it is worth reading, particularly now during these times. Dr. Sowell, when we talk about equality, immediately race pops into mind. It's always about race, racial discrimination, about the founding of the nation, white dominant society, so forth and so on. And you make the case, and you've made this case throughout your life, but it's very poignant in your book, which is, wait a minute. Of course this has some impact, but it's not the only thing that has an impact. But why? First of all, what other things have an impact? It's probably an infinite list of things. And secondly, why do they only focus on race on the left?
I guess it's because that's proven to be a politically popular thing to do. But in point of fact, one of the things that's mentioned in the book is a study that was done by the New York Times, of all people, some years ago, where they tried to show the 10 poorest counties in the United States. And they mentioned which ones they were and so on. It turns out that 6 of those 10 counties had a population that was from 90% to 100% white. Now, in the New York Times, they didn't mention the race of the people, but once they told me the counties, I looked it up. And in fact, I followed the average income in those 6 counties over a span of 50 years. And in all those 50 years, all 6 of those counties had a median income lower than the median income of black Americans. Now, and so the people in those counties faced zero racism because they were white and indistinguishable from all other whites. They didn't have a legacy of slavery, and yet there they were. You have to ask then, clearly there must be other things that cause poverty. We can't just assume that because people of a given race have more poverty than some other people, that race must be the reason. But this has become the automatic kind of thing, and I think most people would be quite surprised. One of the things that happens is that behavior matters, and you see that in so many different ways. For example, I think most people would be surprised to learn that despite the fact that blacks as a whole have a higher poverty rate than whites as a whole, black married couple families have for more than a quarter of a century, every single year, had a poverty rate under 10%. And in most of those years, the national poverty rate was not as low as 10%. So it's not and you say, well, this is due to institutional racism. In that case, does that mean that the racists make an exception for blacks who are married? I mean, do racists either know or care whether blacks are married? None of these glib explanations stands up to the slightest empirical study.
And let's talk about this when it comes to minorities generally. You have an Asian population in this country that achieves a lot as a group, intellectually, education-wise, and they are discriminated against by these Ivy League colleges, by Harvard. We just had a Supreme Court decision and so forth, the way Jews were 100 years earlier, by Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and so forth. So the people who push this race issue, is it that they really care about black people or Asian people or Jewish people, or is it that it's just another wedge issue to try and destroy this culture and destroy this society?
There are some people who are both. Some really believe it, and I feel sorry for them. But there are some who really don't care. If it gets them elected, that's what matters. And this is one of the tragedies of trying to politicize race. There are so many fallacies that it's hard to even know which one to take up. But for example, the great narrative is that blacks rose from poverty, got into professional occupations as a result of the 1960s social welfare programs. and that this has been a big benefit. One of the problems with this way of looking at things is that everything depends on when you pick as the start of this trend. If you go back to 1940, that is 20 years before these wonderful things are supposed to have happened in the 1960s, and you discover that the degree to which blacks were in poverty declined from 87% in 1940 to 47% in 1960. So it went down by 40 points in those 20 years. Now you look at the 20 years following 1960, they went down 18 points. And so the trend did not begin in the 1960s. The trend was there before then, and the trend did not even accelerate after 1960. Many people think that it would all began with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Well, that was a fine act to get rid of the segregation laws in the South. But the cold fact is that the percentage of blacks who had professional occupations doubled from 1954 to 1964. That is in the decade ending at the time that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed. If you look at the things that are negative, like, for example, black children being raised in single-parent households. In 1940, just under 17% of black kids were raised in one-parent families. But after 1960s, before the end of the century, 4 times that many, 68% of black kids were being raised in one-parent families. And that does not depend on racism or any of the other things they talk about. It depends upon things that happened due to the policies of the 1960s, which are still going forward.
Which encourage the dissolution of the family. It's just unbelievable.